He was the girl's father, and he knew now that I had lain with him sexually for 4 straight months, simply because it was finally my circle of fertility. Outside that window, I had no need or desire for the company of men. I just needed his seed to give life to my womb. Alexander, remember your station here. I give you all, but never forget that I am the lower queen of the vampire of the Celtic people, beholden to none, save for her co-ruling king of Britannia, residing in London. I reminded Alexander. Not that I flung my station in his face often. The young man was now 38. He had been about the age I appear when we met. Our girls desired their daddy, so I brought him into the vampire tribe as a human confidant. However, such intimate knowledge of my sex seemed to let slip the weight behind my every word and whim. Of course. Forgive my loose tongue, lower queen Mavis Aubrey. He bowed to me. Part of it tasted of mockery, but I decided not to call him on his subtlety. Alexander desired to be what I was. This was not lost to me. However, the tribes rarely bring in humans, and the process is potentially fatal to the vampire themselves. As lower queen, I am not allowed to risk my life on such a flight of fancy. There have been growing numbers of malcontents outside the gates of the estates, my queen, Alexander informed me, and I nodded to him and looked out, past the yard, then the fields. Out beyond the cotton fields and the orchards, beyond even the farthest grazing herds of my cattle. My eyes came upon a cluster of local farmers and other various seasoned men of their crafts. They were furious because a young woman ruled over these lands and managed them better by far than any other estate in New Orleans. Add to that the fact that we employed and protected freed slaves and refused to practice the unseemly cultural ways of mistreating dark-skinned humans. These humans clearly have not grown up next to dark and fey to know just how diverse that lot gets, which makes the skin colour thing exceedingly illogical from my or any other vampire's point of view. Beyond all else, we find blood tastes better when it is not embittered by misery and oppression. Indeed, it appears they have themselves a rebel-rousing leader of some sorts. This happens on occasion. The menfolk get enough spirits in their bellies and they set their ire upon the wench ruling her own little fiefdom. I told Alexander, and he hesitantly nodded his understanding. My queen, would it not be wise to try to keep them dispersed? Frowning at the suggestion given question, I shook my head. Nay, 'tis the lads being rowdy. If I go off in full keg blast every time they were showing their public disdain for me, I'd never get any work done, nor would anyone on these lands. These folks have handled our presence here for over 100 years now, so they will keep themselves on the other side of that fence. The few who didn't ended up vanishing without a trace, and not even a banshee could find them to wail for their deaths. Not that I shared this sordid bit of fact with anyone. Being born a vampire of high birth had made me learn how to discern threat levels. I could smell a truly violent thug before he managed to romp and fuss or do damage to me or mine. After all, if we simply killed everyone who disagreed with us, we'd be like the slave-driving lot of the southern plantation owners. Even my kind was far nicer to our prey. We learned a very long time ago not to kill the blood font, simply to extract what was needed, which is about a chaliceful a day. Humans are a deep mystery to me, how they behave and how they perceive themselves. Alexander, I will keep my best men on the gates and the various points one might use to enter my lands. I never dismiss danger so close, to our precious ones running about at night. I told him, and he nodded stiffly and turned, walking back into the house. He had plenty of reason to worry, considering his finite life experience. He'd lived first as a wealthy farm owner's son, and now as the father of the heirs of the entire Aubrey holdings. My name and wealth were not at all insubstantial. In fact, I was certain I possessed more earthly treasures than I could possibly find a use for in any number of my lives. With all my wealth came the burden of watching over every soul under my land and my banner.